Hello again, guys, and welcome back to PSI Productions. This is parts, I think, three or four, I can't remember, of the Electrolux vacuum cleaner series from approximately anywhere from 1963 to 1966. In our last episode, the vacuum cleaner was put together. It ran very well, but there was literally no suction. Why was there no suction? Well, after putting it back together again, I discovered that I forgot to put on one little washer, and we're going to see the washer later. Forgot to put on the washer, and also the machine had no bag in it. I am thinking that the bag is a crucial part. I don't know how this is engineered, how they made all this work, but if there's no bag, seems to be no suction. If there's a bag, it seems to actually have suction, whether that little washer which went on the shaft was there or not. I don't think the washer is that big of a, and this washer isn't sitting in front of you. These are some leftover pieces, which I don't know where, well, I know where this goes, but it wouldn't fit on. Don't know where this goes. Actually, I have a vague idea of where this goes. I know where this guy goes, but the screw that accepted it, I don't know, it was playing hard to get, so I just left it off. Anyways, back to actually being on topic here. If there's a bag, there's suction. If there's no bag, there's no suction. I don't know how they engineered that. I'm yet to test the assembled vacuum cleaner with no bag. I don't know if there's a point to testing it with no bag, considering that you use the bag no matter what. You would not want to run this thing with no bag because you get all that dirt and stuff you're vacuuming up straight into the motor. That's not good. So yeah, the bag is a crucial part for that, and also noise reduction. When the bag's in there, the machine runs quieter. And yes, it is back together now and working just fine. So, and as I kind of said earlier, I don't know what these pieces, 3 leftover pieces here, the thing functions fine without them, but I'm gonna save these anyway. So where is the Electrolux? Well, we'll go look at it in a bit. But first, for those of you who are disassembling this thing yourself, and also for my own future reference, let's look at the pictures that I took when I first disassembled this machine. I also forgot to edit in those, or at least one of those original pictures in the last episode. So yeah, let's just look at them now, and then we'll see the vacuum. So when you undo the screws on the top, that cover holding the switch and all that, and the contacts and whatnot, that all comes off. And you can also see the piece of wire that we just looked at sticking out of the switch there. I don't know what that wire is for, but I couldn't get it to go back on the same way. Then there's that piece of chrome on the front, which comes off with 3 screws. There's 2 of them, and then one of them is out of view here. It's at the top there. I think there's a rubber gasket or 2 also kind of holding it on, or at least keeping it insulated in one way or another. And this is the front of the vacuum, so you can see to your left there's the hose sticking through the hose that's part of the front there. It's sticking through there. There it is again. There's kind of a better view of everything. That 3rd screw, as I said, is up at the top of that piece of chrome. And this is the kind of the way I went in. I took the switch cover off and then got this piece of chrome off next. That was my next piece. And here it is from the side there. There's the switch and all that stuff hanging limp. So then after that, you have that piece holding the cord, or that cart, as I call it, holding the cord on there. That just came off with a couple of C-clips. The wheels were clipped on to the shaft there, or the whatever you want to call it. They were clipped on. Took the clips off, the wheels came off, and that cart could be separated from the rest of the machine. This piece of chrome here, this was held on by 4 screws. The washer you saw in the earlier clip there with the extra parts, sorry, that washer was off of there. And there were 4 washers with long machine screws sticking through them. Took those 4 screws out, took the washers out. The piece of chrome did not want to come off still, so as you saw, I just took a hammer and a flat blade screwdriver and just chiseled it off. And you can see there's that rubber grommet hanging down there. The rubber grommet was
You know, I mean, this has been together for at least 60 years. This thing has never been serviced ever, as far as I know. So, yeah, I can't really blame it for being hesitant to come apart, especially since the rubber has been pressed that tightly together for so long with that piece of chrome, or that piece of steel, whatever it's called. Or maybe it's a piece of chrome-plated steel. I don't know. I'm just going to call it steel from now on because I think that's what it is. So then after that, we had access to the motor. You can see the screws in the other rubber grommet there holding the motor to the case. And you can also see the two old wire nuts there with the wiring going up to the switch. I thought this machine would be more electrically complicated than it was, but no, it's literally the power cord. Power gets transferred across the front, and then it goes straight to this motor. That's absolutely it. Like, there's no frills to this thing. I love it. So after the wire nuts were undone and the screws were undone on the grommet, the motor could be removed. And this is what it looks like from the top there. And the shaft for this thing was left in the case still. So, yeah, this motor is in two pieces. Very, very simplistic stuff there. There's the shaft just sitting in the bottom of the case. Like, really, guys, there is nothing to this machine. And it's great because less stuff can go wrong. You can also see the insane amount of dust all over this thing. Yeah, I had to, by this point, I was working on it in my garage on a folding table because I did not want to do this in the house. With both the front and back end of this thing removed, I could just easily take the shaft out. And, of course, there's the fan can with the motor just sitting on the table, covered in dust. I wasn't really sure what to make of it, really, when I first looked at it. I wasn't sure, you know, as I said, thought it would be more complicated. Guess not. So it was time to disassemble the fan can. There was one big nut there and a washer underneath that needed to be unscrewed. There's also those 4 pieces of spring steel on there, which need to be just easily unclipped there. And then, of course, we could take the fan can apart, and there's the different discs in there. So there's disc number 1, I think. Yeah, when you're taking these things apart, keep track of what disc goes in what order on the shaft. I did get a little kind of confused with this, trying to reassemble it, thinking where in the heck, you know, which disc goes on what area. But yeah, and of course, after all the fan discs were taken off, there was this washer here. This is the washer that I forgot to put back on later. As I said, I don't think it was really that big of a power player in this motor to the point where it's going to take away the suction entirely if this thing isn't on it. So, yeah, that guy got oiled up and he got put right back on that shaft, and then all the fan blades went over it. So, with that washer on there, it helps the blades to not bump into each other or bump into the case. And with that removed, you have the ball bearing and all that fun stuff in there. This was the area that I believe the grease failed in. This was the area that needed to either be entirely replaced, that being the bearing itself, or packed with grease again. And you can see the bearing is pressed in the middle of its own blade there, or its own fan blade, whatever you want to call it. I just took a hammer and just gave it a few taps and it fell off. So yeah, and then, you know, it was the reverse when I was reassembling. Just a few taps and it went back on there just fine. Unsure of how to remove the bearing from the shaft for cleaning, I took a Princess Auto gear puller and just went at it. And this gear puller, I don't know how I feel about it, honestly, but it was the right size to fit that bearing. And also, I couldn't replace the bearing. I went to Princess Auto, went in the bearing department. Maybe I should have gone to the parts counter, I don't know. Tried to get a bearing, couldn't find one that fit the exact size. Because if it's even a millimeter thicker in one way or another, it's just going to be too big to even fit in the fan blade that it's supposed to mount in. So I just took to cleaning it. And here is the teeth. So there's that steel cover underneath the bearing. I just put the teeth on that and then pulled it up and then slid the bearing, pulled the bearing off the shaft there. And I accidentally drilled a hole in the top of the shaft. I should have put a washer or something there. Yeah, this thing has a tip on the end of the shaft, on the spindle or whatever you want to call it, of the gear puller itself, on the end of the shaft there. There's a sharp tip. I accidentally ended up drilling a small hole into the shaft of the vacuum. So no harm done really, but just for future reference, I think I'm going to stick like a nut in between whatever I'm trying to, or whatever it's on, and the tip of the gear puller itself, if that makes any sense. I'll show you the gear puller later, but yeah, that's my best description. As you can see in the bearings case here, that's the spot where it mounted, or that's the spot where it sits on the shaft, mounted, whatever. That is the spot I intend to put it back into, so that's why I took that picture of where it's, you know, how high it's sitting on that particular shaft there, in that particular area. And of course, when I was putting it back together, there was this nondescript piece of plastic that I couldn't figure out what it did or where it was from. Turns out it covers the electrical prongs, and that's great because I don't want 120 volts, 125 volts flowing through this vacuum cleaner, and knowing that I could just put my hand on it, press it down the wrong way, and just get a full 125 volts of pure uncovered electrical current. So that's a really nice piece of plastic there. I'm quite fond of it. It also mounts into that chrome piece a certain way. The whole case for this vacuum cleaner is a little bit finicky to get back together, just because stuff goes on a certain way. It requires a bit of playing around with it. Yeah, if your machine is not going back together quite right, if something's not mounting it, or it's mounting in a weird way and it's not how it was before, don't fret, just keep messing with it. Don't force anything to go on anywhere, and you should be fine. Just if you need to bring out a hammer though to give something a very light tap to push it into place, don't hesitate to do that either. But yeah, it's kind of a bizarre machine. I've never worked on something like this before.
Yeah, some of that stuff, I know it's kind of hard to visualize it, so we're going to look at it again, like the actual vacuum cleaner itself again later. Here is the Princess Auto gear puller that I used. I don't know if Power Fist, I think that's their brand exclusively. This is a Canadian, as you can see by the French, this is a Canadian hardware automotive chain. I love that store. It's a great store. This is the 3x3 gear puller. And I don't know, I hate how ring-a-jing-jing the whole thing. I mean, look at this. I hate that. I don't know if it's supposed to be that way necessarily. I don't know. For the projects I'm usually working on, this doesn't cut it. But for this vacuum, it actually worked fantastic. There is the tip, which totally drilled into the edge of the of the shaft on the vacuum. So yeah, putting a nut here. Finding a tall enough nut, or stacking a few nuts or something, maybe glue some together, I don't know. Sticking some on here, and then just having a flat surface hitting the shaft of whatever you're trying to pull the gear off of to make it work, if that makes any sense. Because yeah, we don't want this just randomly drilling into different projects. Not that it hurt the vacuum in any way, shape, or form, because on that end of the shaft is literally just a screw like shaft. That's the shaft that takes the nuts on it, the nut and the washer. So yeah, it didn't have any special purpose or whatever. So here's the gear puller. Again, I think you can take you can take this apart and of course flip these around if so desired. Again, this is too rickety to really be of much use for me, so yeah, it's an okay gear puller, but this is the only one I'll probably ever buy. I've had some pretty poor gear puller experiences that look something like that. So yeah, but it did the job though, so that's terrific. If you don't have a gear puller like this, to remove that bearing, I don't know, maybe try hammering it off. That's what I did to get it back on. I took a pair of pliers, although you gotta be careful with that, because I just pull my pliers out here that I used. Basically a brand new pair of pliers here. If you take a pair of needle nose pliers like that, go across the shaft, and then hammer these down, it will work. But you can also damage the ends of your pliers here, and you can see I've done that here. Yeah, that's not great. There'll probably be a series on this channel about tool repair after you efficiently wreck your own tools in one way or another.
But yeah, putting a pair of pretend my hand's the bearing, taking the pliers, and then just hammering it down, probably more near the joint, I would say. Hammering it down, and you should be probably okay. Like in that case with mine, there was a steel cover over the bearing on the bottom side. So what I could have done is just flip the entire shaft over, taken a pair of pliers, put it across the shaft, and then hammered it's in here somewhere, and it would have forced the bearing forward and off. So, but that's only something I'm kind of thinking of now. But the gear puller, probably easier to use. But you do what, you work with what you have in any situation. So I used the gear puller this time around. I'm happy to get at least one positive experience with these things. Maybe I'm just using them for the wrong jobs, who knows? Alright, so here's our finished product. And here's all the attachments that I have for it. And here's one new attachment that I was able to get that goes with this vacuum. It is the wand, and it just clips into the end of that hose over there. So that's terrific. We were able to actually get this thing off of eBay for more than I would have liked to have paid for it. But where on earth are you going to find another one of these wands by itself without a machine? Because usually when you find it, looking for any of the attachments, you're almost always going to find at least the machine with it. So that's terrific. I was able to get that, and it works with this particular unit. Absolutely fantastic. So we now have a functioning Electrolux. But before we wrap this up, there's a few things that I don't understand, and there's also kind of one other thing we have to do after this. So bear with me. As for the things that I don't really know how to respond to, one of them is this gauge here, or this knob on the front of this machine. I've got absolutely no idea what that does, and only around the number 3, or actually that's the number 5, only around the number 1 and the number 5 positions do I feel the knob wanting to lock up. Otherwise, it feels like the knob is just spinning freely. It doesn't feel like it's attached to anything. I have absolutely no idea what that does, what the purpose of this knob is. If we open the front of this thing, press the button down, there's our bag. There's well, this isn't the hose, but you know what I mean. It pushes all the stuff into the bag here. I don't know. I should have probably taken a closer look at this front piece when I had it apart, but it's not that big of a deal, at least not to me. If some vacuum cleaner collector knows what he's talking about and wants to comment, then by all means, please do. And another question, I think this hose comes off. I've seen pictures of this vacuum with the hose off. I can't get the thing off. I have no idea how this thing comes off. Does it unscrew? I've got no idea. I don't want to force anything because I don't want to break it. I don't even know what buttons to press or whatever. This electrical wiring here, this works great. It goes, of course, all the way through the cord, and it keys in to that attachment over there, which we will take a better look at here in a bit. Another kind of mystery is what that piece of wire was for, because it went, from the switch here all the way along here and ended over here somewhere. Or that piece of wire. I don't know where that would have keyed into. It doesn't seem to do anything. I got no idea. Another kind of thing here is the cart on the back, and also another reason why I'm looking at all of this is just so you can get a better idea of what I had to do before even taking this apart. So here's the quote-unquote cart on the back, and this guy has like a clip here that you pull up and move like that. There's that piece of plastic that I'm very fond of. And this is the electrical connection here. If I can do this single-handedly. It's nice and tight. There we go. There it is. This falls down. It's got C-clips. That wheel assembly is holding that on. There is, I don't know what this piece of plastic is for, honestly. I think it's just a cover to keep the cord in. And speaking of the cord, actually, the mechanism that pulls the cord back in like this, I have done nothing with it, and I don't know if it should be serviced in any way, shape, or form, I don't know if it needs that. I don't know, you know, you want to get anywhere where there's friction in these things. I don't know if this thing needs some type of oil in there somewhere. I also don't want to undo those screws and then just have the whole cord go boof and just out of there and just go absolutely everywhere and then just not want to go back on. But you know, that very rarely ever happens with this stuff. Usually they have it better assembled than that. There's probably some interior cover thing or whatever. I don't know. I've already got this thing together, so maybe I shouldn't even worry about it. Here is the back area. The motor is just behind this grill. And as I said, this thing is screwed on. It's held together with these 4 screws. There's one washer missing from one of them. I think it's that one down there. And yeah, this piece of chrome here, this was on here so tight, even after the screws were removed, that I just chiseled it off, you know, with a hammer, screwdriver, and it popped off. It should be kind of looser now after that whole fiasco, because remember guys, this thing has never been worked on before me. So I hope that we did a good job, and I hope that I didn't really miss anything. I mean, this machine is pretty basic, so there's not a lot that can go wrong in something like this that hasn't gone wrong already. You know, it's kind of really clever actually, the way this is all set up. You plug it in here, power goes through here, the electricity winds up here, and then you can just plug it in, and this is aligned really well, so it just goes in perfectly. And then this can kind of, how does this work again? You usually never have to come back here unless you're taking the machine apart. You know, there's really no reason to even come back here. Actually, you know what? While we're back here, let's look at that plate. I never paid any attention to this during the series because I didn't think it would help us, and it really hasn't. But for those guys who actually, you know, want to know what model this is or whatever, I don't know if this is a model number. I don't know what that plate means. Elux 89E 30, or that's either 203 or 303. 303 849 or 39. Sorry. Yeah, I think that model is still around, or the 89 E number range is still around somehow. They probably, like, I don't know, probably in like the 80s or 70s or something like that. They just said, we're just gonna pretend all these old vacuums don't exist, and we're just gonna start the number range all over again. I can just imagine trying to take this thing to a vacuum cleaner repair guy, and you know, I was really contemplating on it, but I'm happy I did it myself, because really there's no, like, the guy would probably take one look at this and say, oh, the parts aren't available anymore, or some kind of thing like that, where, you know, the guys, those types of guys probably, and I'm not saying those guys are a bunch of morons or something, but they probably would not work on something like this, of this age. Heck, those guys might not even work on vacuums anymore, because this is 2022, where, you know, stuff like this is more what people are, well, actually not even, that's actually a fairly cheap vacuum. I use that for kind of rougher jobs that I don't want to use for this one here. You guys can use your imagination as to what those jobs may be. But yeah, that's kind of a cheaper one. That definitely will not last, well, probably not last as long as this. By any way, shape, or form, that will not run for as long as this will. So, what have we got to look at next? Well, our vacuum, I mean, we've covered that. There's really nothing else to the machine. Here's our attachments that haven't been lost. I have no idea what that is. That's some kind of filter, but I don't know what that does. Hopefully you guys in the comments would be able to tell me. I don't know if any of these other attachments like go on here. Oh, yes they do. Okay, maybe this is meant to go on here. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Definitely looks like some kind of filter though. These are made out of nice hard plastic, and I'm not really a fan of plastic stuff most of the time, but you know, this is old plastic, and this feels like it won't break on you, so that's really nice. There's also this tiny little attachment here, which is great. I love what they did with the logo in the front. I can't say I've used this too often. I mainly use this attachment over here, which goes on the end of the wand, and I've also got that guy over there, which of course is electric. And you can see here with this wiring system they've got that runs through the hose and plugs into that, you know, that's your carpet cleaning head. I don't know all the names for these guys, I gotta admit. I'm not a professional vacuum cleaner specialist in any way, shape, or form. This is just some guy in his basement. And you know what, guys, before we're done with this project, we need to work on that attachment as well. Because, again, that has its own motor in it, and it has never been serviced either. And just like its big brother over here, or should I say body over here, you know, there's only a matter of time before the oil in there, whatever's left of it, stops playing nice and just starts making a screeching sound or something. And how you even activate that is there's a trigger on this here, and you hold that down, and of course that the wand plugs into this, and then that guy plugs into the end of this here. It's a very discreet system. I like it. It's very neat, you know, it's very easy to use. So anyway, I'm going to be doing it one day, and that's going to start making all kinds of crazy noises it shouldn't be making. So we're going to have a series on that too. And, well, we're just going to have the name, I think, of the series be the same. It'll all be one series. But yeah, we need to work on that thing, because, you know, I don't want this to somehow get all messed up in one way or another, wear it out, literally run it into the ground. And that's what would happen if we didn't do anything with that particular attachment. And then after that, we really would be done. You know, that would be it for the Electrolux for this time around. And then maybe in 10 years I'll come back and I probably wouldn't record it, but, you know, service this thing again and keep it well oiled and greased. Mainly greased. There wasn't really any oil in this, but keep it well oiled and make sure it all runs just fine, because we want it to be around for another 60 years, if not more. As long as it'll go. There's a lot of work that this thing can still do. You know, it still works perfectly fine. And it worked like, you know, it worked fine all the way up until I had to service it the first time. And now that I have, we've gone back to that. So this thing has a lot of miles on it, but it can take a lot more. You know, there's still a lot that can be done. And maybe if I need, like, the carbide brushes in this thing, if I need new brushes or something, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do there. Yeah, that's the thing, right? The vacuum cleaner repair guy might actually be right, that the parts are hard to find for these. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But, you know, I'd be actually really cruel if I didn't at least let you hear what this thing sounds like. You're going to definitely want to know, you know, what a good, healthy Electrolux actually sounds like. So we're just going to plug it in and get her going. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Of course, when you're done with it, there's no playing around with the cord here. You just, you know, oh, hang on. You know, it's got its own cord storage system, and that's absolutely fantastic, because I'm not, you know, constantly playing around with the cord like I am with door number 2 over there. Well, guys, I thank you for stopping by and checking this Electrolux series out. And hopefully we have a very successful repair of this attachment right here. And then, of course, when that's done, if all goes according to my plan, then we'll just, you know, do a bit of vacuuming. And that'll be it. And hopefully you guys will get something out of this. I don't know how popular or common these Canadian Electrolux models are. And I don't even know if they're made in Canada. I think they might be imported from the US, but I've got no proof of that either way.
You know, when it comes to living in Canada and just dealing with antiques and stuff like this, you find out very quickly that there's a lot of exclusive stuff that was only made in Canada and no one else on the internet knows about it except for you. This would be one of those cases of that for the most part. No one else has uploaded anything, any content on this particular model. And I really should look at some more vacuum cleaner collectors. Maybe they would know about this, but I've never seen any other coverage of this model on YouTube. And I know that's a very common thing to say, at least in the 2020s it is, because a lot of people don't care about this stuff, let alone care about it enough to film a video about it. But either way, guys, whatever your position is on it, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you learned something.